Namaste Mitrani, Yushmakam Shabdanam Rupanam Adhyanam Samyak Chalati iti Asham Karomi. So I hope that the study of the words is going on well for you. In our last two lectures, we've started looking at the ikara and ukara ending words for the masculine and the neuter. In this class, which is lecture number 38, I'll do an introduction of the nouns in the feminine ending with the u and the e and in the three vachanas. So we'll do a revision of the Strilinga word ending with the e and then move on to the introduction of the Strilinga words ending with the u and the e and in all the three vachanas, and then it is accompanied with the practice of some verbs. We are not going to do too many changes with the verbs so that there is at least a little more familiarity with the ones that are there. But we've looked at a lot of verbs in our previous week, so feel free to use anything from there to innovate by yourselves and to apply what we are learning in terms of the word forms, and then there will be a building of the vocabulary. So as you can see, the revision of the ikara feminine and then the introduction of the u and the e with some practice. As you can anticipate now, you seeing an empty table like that, you know that there are many things that you can fill up just with pure reasoning, pure past experience of the words that you have learned. So here we have nari. Let's do it together. Nari, the ikara ending, nari, narim, narya, naryai, naryaha, naryaha, naryam, he, nari. Okay, it's a short e when you're doing the he. Moving on, matihi. So what happens? Matihi. Guess the second one? Uttamam. So matihi. I'll just write the last part. Matim. So matim. And then matya uttamam. Continue. Matyai uttamam. And then now what happens? What is the logical one that you would say? You would say matyaha, and you would be right. But we have another alternative, and that alternative matches the word kavi. So what happens to kavi in the 5th and 6th cases? Uttamam. So it becomes kavehe. So matihi becomes matehe. Matehe, matehe, and the saptami would be matyam as expected, and considering that the previous one emulated the word endings of the kavi words, so what would happen? Matau. Kavehe kavau, matehe matau, uttamam, and he mate. Okay, so let's look at the word dhenu now. So we have dhenuhu. In the second case, it will become dhenum, uttamam, dhenum. Third one, matyaso, dhenva, matyai, uttamam, dhenvai. Or we also have another option which is dhenave, just like guru, gurave. So dhenave. And what I notice here is that I have missed out writing that matyai can also be mataye. Just like kavihi becomes kavaye, matihi also can become mataye, uttamam. Matyaha becomes dhenvaha, uttamam, and matehe. So you have an option there. So dhenvaha will become dhenoho, matehe, dhenoho. So dhenoho, dhenoho, or dhenvaha, dhenvaha, and the last one matyam will become dhenvam. And you also have matau, so therefore here you will have the option of dhenau, uttamam, he, dheno, astu. So let's try and recap the words matihi first and then dhenuhu. So let's do it together. Matihi, matim, matya, matyai or mataye, matyaha or matehe, matyaha or matehe, matau, he, mate, uttamam. Moving on to dhenu, dhenuhu, dhenum, dhenva, dhenvai or dhenave, dhenvaha or dhenoho, dhenvaha or dhenoho, dhenau, he, dheno, astu. So I hope you have a feel of this now, and most important, I hope you are able to connect to the words that you've already seen and see that there are similarities. There are certain patterns that stick to the feminine as per se, like the matyaha is similar to the nadyaha, but then you also have something which is in common with the ikara, the short e, which is shared with the pullinga kavi. Okay, moving on. Nari in the plural becomes nar. In the dual, not in the plural. In the dual becomes naryau, and then naribhya. So naryau, naryau, naribhyam, 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 naryoho, he naryau. Moving on, what happens to mati? So just like what had happened to kavi, it became long. So kavi. So mati. So mati, and then uttamam. Matibhyam. So short. Okay. Matibhyam, and then matyoho and matyoho. Matyoho. So matyoho. He mati. So this is the same again here. Asu, what happens to the dhenu padam? Guess. Satyam. So I'll write the first one. Dhenu, then dhenubhyam, then matyoho, and here you'll get dhenvoho, uttamam, and he dhenu. So this will be just like the first one. So can we do that together? Mati, matibhyam, matyoho, he mati, and dhenu. So dhenuhu becomes dhenu, dhenubhyam, dhenvoho, he dhenu. So when you're doing these long vowels, it's a great idea to stretch them even when you're pronouncing them, because then your ears will hear them clearly, and the registration in the first instance will be nice and clear. Moving on, we have naryaha, and then narihi, naribhihi, naribhyaha, narinam, narishu, he naryaha, uttamam. And what happens to mati? So unlike nadyaha, mati doesn't become matyaha but matayaha. Where did you see that? Uttamam, with the word kavihi. So kavihi became kavayaha, matihi matayaha, uttamam. So matayaha, what was the logic for the second case? Lengthen the vowel, put an visarga for the feminine. So matihi, uttamam. Matihi, then matibhihi, uttamam. Matibhihi, then matibhyaha, uttamam. Next, matibhyaha, then matinam. Again, lengthening of the vowel and adding the nam there. And finally, matishu, short. It's narishu because the root is nari, but here the root is nari, so it will be, mati, so it will be matishu. Writing that for you, matishu, he matayaha, uttamam. Moving on with dhenu. So instead of becoming dhenvaha, it becomes dhenavaha. So dhenavaha, then dhenuhu. So it becomes dhenuhu, and then dhenubhihi, uttamam. So you're saying it along with me, right? Next, dhenubhyaha. So that's the same thing there. Then dhenunam, uttamam, dhenunam, and dhenushu, he dhenavaha. Astu. So we do that together. Matayaha, matihi, matibhihi, matibhyaha, matinam, matishu, he matayaha, and with dhenu, dhenavaha, dhenuhu, dhenubhihi, dhenubhyaha, dhenunam, dhenushu, he dhenavaha, uttamam. And then we've got the similar group of verbs there. So asti, asti can become staha and santi, and brahmati means roams around, and if you do the dual, brahmataha and brahmanti, brahmayati. So here you can have nari brahmayati, so makes them roam around. Similarly, the person can make somebody else brahmayati, and so it holds, but the person, when you're using it in the second case, then it can be dhenuhu brahmayati. Ka brahmayati? Gopalakaha dhenuhu brahmayati. So the cow herdsman is making the cows roam around. Okay, so Dhenuhu Bhramayati Uttamam Karyam Karoti. So with the let's say with the intelligence Karyam Karoti. So Matihi meaning intelligence here. So Matibhihi Karyam Karoti. So along with that, using that as an instrument. Pradasyati. So to that will give. Then Grih and Prapnoti. Grihnati or Prapnoti. Uttamam. Abhyasaha. So Kasya Abhyasaha asti. It's an exercise for the mind, for the minds. Then Matinam Abhyasaha asti. Uttamam. And Daya. Kutra Daya asti? In the cows. So Dhenushu Daya asti. Uttamam. Tishtatu. Stay there. So the mind is very active, the intelligence. So He Matayaha Tishthantu. So Tishtatu for the singular, dual, Tishthatam and Tishthantu. Uttamam. We have a list of words here that I'd like you to also become a little familiar with. So we have Tanuhu, but it's also marked in red because the word Tanuhu can also be Tanu. Okay, it can be the long U which would take on different forms like Vadhu, etc. Then Chanchuhu, similarly it can be Chanchu, and like I said, it has different forms, but a lot of it would be recognizable, as you can see in while doing this particular table. Renuhu, dust. Rajjuhu, the rope. Hanuhu is the jaw. Shraddhaluhu is an adjective but for the feminine here. So Shraddhaluhu Narihi, Nari for example. Laghuhu, Guruhu, all of them as adjectives in this particular case. The ikara, not the ikara, the short ikara ending words. Anumatihi meaning permission. Samitihi meaning an organization. Okay, Samitihi, a gathering. And then we have Siddhihi, which is the Siddhi is realization, and then Prasiddhihi is fame. Means a lot of realizations makes you famous in that sense. Muktihi, liberation. Shaktihi, power. Now again, that is in red because that can also be sometimes used in the masculine sense like Kavihi. Next, Krantihi or revolution. Nitihi or the laws or the rules. Vidhihi is the way things are done. Okay, the vidhi is the right way that things are done. Then you have Murtihi or statue. Srishtihi, creation. Bhumihi, the earth. And Adihi as an adjective to say the beginning, the first. Okay, so practice as much as you can, and practice will make perfect. Moving on. You have the whole chart there, so I'll let you put your pause button and go through it once again. Let's do a Sambhashana with Piyush.
Namaste Arye.
Namaste Piyushaha. Kim abhavat?
Aham griham gantum ichchami.
Kutaha? Kim jatam asti?
Mama grihe eka bhumihi asti.
Evam va?
Tasya nasaha abhavat.
Katham?
Dhenunam prakopena.
Evam va? Tari kim karishyati bhavan?
Aham bhavatyaha anumatim prarthayami.
Prarthayati bhavan.
Prarthayami.
Astu, satyam mama anumatya vina bhavan gantum na shakshyati. Shrunotu, tatra gatva yatha vidhihi asti nitim cha palayitva yushmakam grame samitihi bhavati samitayah santi naiva. Tari samitinam anumatya samitinam jnanena sarvam karyam kurvantu.
Astu avashyam
nochit kalaha bhavitum shaknoti. Astu, tari shighram gacchatu.
Shighram gacchami. Addaiva aham gacchami.
Uttamam. Shubham bhavatu.
Shubham.
So I hope you were able to follow that conversation with Piyush, who had some trouble with his land because the dhenoho, the dhenavaha or the cows had caused some destruction there. So moving on, let's apply what we have learnt in a shloka, and this particular shloka is from Manusmritihi. You must have heard of this text, which is supposed to be the foundational law or the ethical text of the Indian civilization. It's the code book of the Indian civilization. So here the shloka says, Acharyo Brahmano Murtihi, Pita Murtihi Prajapatehe, Mata Prithivya Murtihi, Murtistu Bhrata Svo Murtiratmanaha. Okay, let's analyze it. So Acharyo, immediately you know what happens. Acharyo would indicate that it is Acharyah plus Brahmano. So Brahmano again would become Brahmanah plus Murtihi. Murtihi. So what are they saying? That the teacher is like the form of the Brahman himself. Next, Murti. Pita Murtihi Prajapatehi. So Pita Murtihi. Pita, Mata, Bhrata. We are going to look at these words in the course of our lessons. But for now, what we are focusing on is the word Murtihi Asti, and then Murtihi, Pita Murtihi Prajapate. So the father is the image of Prajapatihi, who is the lord of created beings, or Brahma himself. Mata Prithivya Murtihi. Did you recognize the sandhi there? Yes. So here there should have been a Mritivyaha. But because it is a Visarga Sandhi and followed preceded by an A, that drops off. But it should be there. Prithivyaha Murtistu. So that would become Murtihi plus Tu, and then so the mother is the image of the earth. And finally Bhrata Svo Murtir Atmanaha. So Svo, can you recognize? Uttamam. So it is Swaha, of oneself. Murtiratmanaha, break it up for me. Murtihi plus Atmanaha. Uttamam. So he is the image of oneself. So would you like to repeat that after me? Just before that, I'll read out the translation. The teacher is the image of Brahman, the father the image of Prajapati, the lord of created beings, the mother the image of the earth, and the brother the image of oneself. This is what Manu says, and I'd like you to repeat after me. So, Acharyo Brahmano Murtihi Pita Murtif Prajapateh. So Prajapatihi, masculine, becoming Prajapatehe. Mata Prithivya Murtistu Bhrata Svo Murtiratmanaha. Uttamam. So let's move on. So I'd like to share with you this quote from Nietzsche, which I found which was very interesting. Friedrich Nietzsche was a German philosopher, cultural critic, composer, poet, philologer, and he says this thing about Manu, that I do not know any book that says as many kind and delicate things to females as in the law book of Manu. These old men and saints have a way of minding their manners in front of women that has perhaps never been surpassed. This is a very almost like a eye-opening statement, because Manu is often criticized for not being very reverential towards women. So I think the statement which Dr. Konrad Elst, a Belgian scholar, he brought it to light, and I think it deserves a greater thinking. So you will get references of that in this page for that quote. And finally, Anandostu Vaha, may happiness be yours. Abhyasam kurvantu, tena mahan santoshah bhavishyati. Shubham astu.